Right, welcome to the show. Our 16 followers now we're up to. I know you're one of them, Johnny. um, Today we are going to be talking about TikTok, something I knew literally nothing about until about 40 minutes ago. So it's one of the most downloaded apps in the world. 1 billion people use TikTok. Over COVID, it became the most downloaded app in the world. And I just watched this documentary. In America, it's huge, right? In California, you have these TikTok houses, and one of them's called The Vault in LA, and it's kind of insane. It's full of these 18-year-olds that are from Atlanta, all these different areas in the UK, get big enough following, and then everyone sort of moves to California, and they're making millions of dollars a year just doing like 10-second dances, right? And then pushing some dodgy or not so dodgy product. And the guy, it was this Vice documentary, and he was walking around. I mean, they were living in a crazy mansion, and in every room there was like 2 or 3 really good-looking teenagers with really nice eyes, just doing these weird dances or doing these weird 10 seconds clips. It's a bit bizarre, the TikTok world, isn't it?
Just like making videos, but the TikToks, I think the TikTok one's a bit weird just because it's so short and it's just dances and it's just a lot of it doesn't really make sense. And obviously, there's a lot of bad stuff that comes with the TikTok, with obviously the stuff they promote, and a lot of these like crypto guys, they start trying to promote like signal groups or just don't work or something like. Do you know what I mean? Just try and bashing the wrong things out just to get a payday.
Yeah, back to some of the content though. I literally don't understand. At first, I was sort of hating TikTok. So I was like, these people are wasting their lives. But you sort of got to respect it. They're like the modern age digital entrepreneurs that don't need to grind out 50 hours a week in an office, can instead do these weird dances. I mean, they still probably do grind, but in like 10-second segments at a time. So there was this mixed race guy in this house, and he had 15 million TikTok followers. And they were like, how did you? And he got this in basically 2 years. And they were like, how did you do it? And apparently, one of his big skits was to he approaches young couples in the street and offers a girl offers them $10,000 if he can kiss the girl. So he just does these weird social experiments. And yeah, they're the guinea pigs of people on screen. So, I mean, you're recently engaged, aren't you? Congratulations.
Thank you to all my listeners wishing it upon me as well.
Like, what are you going to do if someone approaches you and offers you $10,000 to kiss your girl?
Turn it down.
Turn it down.
Yeah, no way.
Good. You're an honourable young man.
Yeah, maybe like a year ago I'd have accepted it, but not now.
The electrician business is
circumstances have changed. I'm not selling my soul for that shit.
No, I respect that.
I think it's terrible, really. Like, that's as much. I feel like you know what, he's making money and he gets views and that, but like he's actually like probably like breaking a man's soul just for views. Like, because a lot of people are broke, they need that £10,000, and they have literally no choice but to watch their girl get kissed by another man.
Yeah. When you think about it, it's kind of disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm asking you to do something you really don't want to do. Or maybe they do, but no, they probably don't want to do unless it's some toxic relationship. And you're going to film it and millions of people are going to watch this person get humiliated. And he's basically exploiting, isn't he?
Yes, yeah. What happened? What was that concert when that mate, he bought his missus? This is very off course, sorry. I seen a video of this mate, he bought his missus like front row seats to this concert, front like standing seats, and like the singer has taken his girlfriend up to the stage, and like I swear he kisses her, and the boyfriend just like stood there in the front row, just like, what the fuck is happening?
I heard about this. Oh yeah, here we go. No, Omar Lay grinds and kisses GH lady on stage at UK concert. The boyfriend reacts. This might be it. Yeah, that's insane. That's kind of crazy though, isn't it?
Can you imagine like saving up to get your girl these concert tickets?
Front row seats probably cost them like $250 too. She's like, hi.
I just think stuff like that's terrible. But That was very off course.
I mean, you talk about off course. Have you ever listened to the show before?
Occasionally.
It's not the most structured thing in the planet.
No,
Let's talk about. So you told me a minute ago that TikTok actually pays well now, but this is a clip of KSI, obviously the famous English YouTuber, talking about how much he's made from TikTok.
Any of the money out. 9.2 million followers, 70 million likes, 100 million plus, maybe 200 million plus. Guess how much I've made?
I'm going to go with 1,600.
100. It's quite, you guys are kind of low. 3,000.
£3,000 though, but for the amount of views he gets.
That's mad. Like, imagine you're solely a TikTok content creator.
Hundreds of millions of views, £3,000.
Yeah, that was quite a long time ago, I think, though, because I know the creator scene now on TikTok for videos that are longer than a minute. If you get centralized TikTok now, if you get monetized and you make videos over a minute long, I'm pretty sure it works out close to £10,000 per million views you get.
That's huge.
Huge money.
And where did you get this information from?
Other creators.
Other creators?
Yeah, they show what they make.
And that's recent. I mean, I can't be bothered.
Within a couple of weeks, yeah, definitely.
I can't be bothered to Google that, so we'll just have to take your word for it as fact.
I'll just pause.
Yeah, well, while you search for that, do you know how many followers the biggest TikToker in the world has?
300 million?
Close-ish. 165 million. He's called Kaby Lame. I think he's Ghanaian, but he lives in Italy, and he just kind of takes the piss out of other videos online. And he has 2.4 billion likes on his page, 2.4 billion, and hundreds of millions of views. So he's making some serious bank.
So this guy had 17.6 million qualified views monetized. What paid for. Without them 17.6 million views, you got paid 10,627,000.
So you were way off by a factor of 17. If you're saying 10,000 per million.
What? Yeah, fair. It seems off, but obviously, this girl's getting £1.72 per 1,000 views she gets.
So what's the maths on
that? He was only getting 0.72p per views he gets.
So she is making £1,700 per million views, I think. It's still not great, but most of the money actually comes from having these brand deals, you know, the product placement within their videos, because it's a face that the audience learns to trust and even really love, and then they're like, hey, you know, buy this cool drink or something, and then the orders just flood in. Speaking of which, it's time for a quick advert break. Today's show is sponsored by UX Torches, some of the world's best torches. Those North Atlantic ice-breaking ships, you know, they don't actually need their lights. Just strap 3 of these torches on the front and they are sorted. So www.uxtorches.com. Buy them. They're going fast. Can we talk? He's not really a TikTok influencer, but he is an influencer.
Yeah.
I'm sure your fiance would love us talking about. And that's Dan Bilzerian. Now, this guy's a weird one because he's got an insane number of Instagram followers, like 25 million. And he was just famous for, you know, he's well known for having, you know, dozens of sparsely dressed, you know, very pretty Instagram models and just being on these super yachts, firing these huge 50 cows into the desert, driving fast cars, proper like 18-year-old testosterone wet dream type stuff. And I was watching an interview with him, and then they was kind of criticizing him for bringing these girls around, like, oh, you pay them to sleep with you, etc., etc. And he was like, listen, these girls I bring around with me, I tag them in the Instagram post. They're then making $300,000 a year off of these sponsored deals, like sportswear deals or anything, because their own Instagram blows up. It's like, these girls are making more than doctors. For what? Just partying with me? And, you know, he's he made a good point. It's like, no one's forcing these girls to hang out with him. They're choosing to. And yeah, he's making them a lot of money, makes himself a lot of money, makes them a lot of money, though. So this is something I'm not sure if you do know. How do you think he made all his money?
Poker.
Yeah, poker. That's the big thing. He claims to have made $50 million a year in poker. Now, he does play poker and he does win big sometimes. But do you know the story about his father?
No. Enlighten me.
His father was in the American military and then went on to do a degree at either Harvard or Yale, one of these like top world universities. And then he became a finance guy. And he also became like a kind of finance fraudster. Now, let me just read you this snippet of an article from Vice. His father, Paul Bilzerian, in 1991, filed for bankruptcy in the state of Florida. 2 years later, the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission in the US, told him he owed $62 million, which he claimed he couldn't pay because he didn't have any cash. Over the following 2 decades, the SEC has continued to chase Paul Bilzerian in a maddening game of financial legal cat and mouse. At its most extreme, this dance found Paul Bilzerian declaring bankruptcy and then going to jail for refusing to admit he was lying about his finances. Okay, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal last year, Dan Bilzerian acknowledged that he did inherit some money in a trust from his father. Blah, 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 blah. Says that between 1994 and 1999, Bilzerian transferred his substantial assets into a complex ownership structure of offshore trusts and family-owned companies and partnerships. It's clear that he did this purposefully to insulate his assets from the reach of these creditors. So, yeah, there's a high chance that maybe not all of it, but some of Dan Bilzerian's wealth came from the basically financial scams that his very successful father in the big whale in the finance industry was running in the 90s and the late 80s. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
What kind of scams are we talking? Are we talking the stock market?
Yeah, stock market. So,
which is pretty much stolen off innocent people.
Yeah, pretty much. One of the things he was doing was he was buying shares in these companies and then artificially inflating the price of the companies and then crashing them and profiting off it or something. You know, some of the kind of fuckery they do in the stock market. But he got, he was wanted for basically financial fraud. So he was committing some serious financial crimes. And he owed the SEC $62 million, and he went to prison for just over a year because he didn't want to give up. He was still denying he had it. And then his son just mysteriously is an amazing poker player that's also incredibly wealthy. And apparently all of that wealth came from poker. Now, maybe, but it's kind of suspicious, right?
Very suspicious. I still like Dan Bilzerian though, so...
Yeah, I quite like him. Having said all that,
yeah, I was saying it sounds like to me it's innocent people's money.
Yeah, I mean you've got like pension funds and stuff that are invested in these companies, and people's pensions are tied to wealth in these companies. If he's crashing these same companies just to get him even more obscenely rich, then it's pretty horrible stuff. But I tell you what is interesting is where he hid it. So do you know about these offshore trusts and stuff?
Yeah.
There's these safe havens, financial safe havens. I think like the Cayman Islands, certain islands in the West Indies as well, where they have really weird laws. So if you're a foreign company registered there, you're tax exempt, and like insane amounts of money. Wealthy people hide these in these offshore accounts like this.
And and that's it, that they get to give. In all honesty, then, mate, you got to do what you got to do, haven't you, for your wealth, and your family, and to make sure your family's rich. But
yeah, you do. But hold on a minute, if you're that rich, you can still afford to pay tax, and whatever made you that rich, whichever good or service you produced in that country, people earning money in that country, paying it to you through your shell companies, you're then taking all that cash out of that society and keeping it somewhere else and not paying any of the tax, which is basically a way for a little bit of it to get reinvested back into that society.
True.
Okay, so let me share screen and you can see this article because it is unbelievable.
Super rich hold 32 trillion in offshore havens.
Yeah, so this is an article from Reuters in 2012. Rich individuals and their families have as much as $32 trillion of hidden financial assets in offshore tax havens, representing up to $280 billion in lost income and tax revenues, according to research published Sunday. The study, estimating the extent of global private financial wealth held in offshore accounts, excluding non-financial assets such as real estate, gold, yachts, and racehorses, puts the sum between 21 and 32 trillion. The research was carried out for pressure group Tax Justice Network, which campaigns against tax havens, by James Henry, former chief economist at consultants McKinsey & Co. He used data from the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, United Nations, and central banks. The report also highlights the impact on the balance sheets of 139 developing countries of money held in tax havens by private elites, putting wealth beyond the reach of local tax authorities. So that's kind of what I was saying about how, you know, the local societies lose out. Isn't that insane?
Crazy, mate. That's a lot of money. 32 trillion to be lost. Well, not lost, but like just stored away. It's just mental. What's the wealth? What's the wealth of the United? Well, it's negative in it actually. But what is the United Kingdom worth?
The United Kingdom's worth about $3.2 trillion.
Crazy.
Is our GDP. So that's the combined value of all the output of all the goods and services in the UK. So the entire country is actually worth more. Because you have the land, like the value of the land and all the property, but that's how much the value of our economy of output of goods and services in 1 year. And yeah, apparently there's 10 times as much as that in these offshore wealth havens that no tax is getting paid on. And is that not quite strange how the media, the news, you never hear stories like that? Because you can't say it's not for lack of public interest, because if a lot of the public heard that, they would be saying, you know, they would be interested in it because it's insane.
Yeah, definitely. It's a crazy aspect to think about. Like, first off, who has 32 trillion to put away? Like, who can, like, maybe like 3 billion, even like the wealthiest people in the world, like 32 trillion, like a serious amount of money. Like, how many trillionaires is there? Maybe 3, 4 trillionaires?
There's zero on paper.
Amazon's a $1 trillion company, aren't they?
Yeah, but not one person owns all of it.
Exactly.
He owns like 10% of it or something. But Elon Musk, and then the guy that owns Louis Vuitton are both up those two as the richest, are like 200 billion each. But
even say, is this worldwide? Is this worldwide investors? So this is the total of the world, what the world has in these offshore havens.
Yeah, it's an estimate between 20 and 30 trillion. But this article was back in 2012.
It's more.
Might be more. Yeah.
Got to be on it.
Yeah, it has got to be.
It's got to be. So what, we're probably looking at 40 trillion, in all honesty.
Yeah.
If not more than that. In what's stored away money, so we're printing money. We're printing money daily, ruining our economy, making everything more expensive, making everything we work for and that less and less effective, making $10,000 feel like £100 or like £1,000, whereas back in 2010 or 2000, £10,000 is a serious amount of money. But now £10,000 doesn't get you a lot.
No, so it's a good point you're making, and it's the rate of inflation. When you're in economic distress, the central banks essentially print money. And the thinking is that they lend private banks so much money that them banks have to lend individuals and businesses money, and then that money gets invested and it restarts the economy. But for people that don't quite realize, so between 2019 and 2023, an insane amount of money got printed to sort of prop up the economy, because when the lockdowns happened, all businesses, the entire economy was basically frozen for a few months. Yet all of the costs were still there. So you had to keep paying, and we had to furlough and everything. So they had to just print so much money. So wait, let me find out how much it is, because it's an insane amount.
But every time they print more money, everything becomes less valuable.
Yeah.
Every dollar that's printed is ruining the economy.
Hang on. So this is an article from the Telegraph. The Bank of England helped trigger double-digit inflation by launching a money printing spree during the COVID crisis, economists have claimed. Experts said that price rises by pumping £450 billion into the economy during the pandemic. Andrew Sentance, a former rate setter at the bank, told MPs on the Treasury Select Committee that a combination of ultra-low interest rates and quantitative easing, where electronic money is created and used to buy bonds, quite significantly contributed to the inflation we're now experiencing. We had this long period of extreme blah, 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 blah. So £450 billion got printed during the pandemic. Now, when you print so much money, it's like you still have the same limited number of goods and services in your economy. Your economy is not just suddenly going to expand by the 20 or 30% instantly. So it just devalues the value of something.
I assume the money was printed for the furlough.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking what? Say every business that closed. I was at SRK Scaffolding at the time, and they had 80 blokes. They furloughed 80 employees. That's a monthly bill of over 160 grand.
Insane.
So what, they furloughed it for 2 months. That one company, as they pretty much gave 500 grand to. You think how many companies in the United Kingdom got furloughed? A lot of that money got ate up from the furlough. And what happened with that is everyone had loads of money. So everyone then started spending. But what also happens with that, everything gets more expensive. So we're back to square one. We may have printed all this more money, and everyone seemed to have more money, but all that's happened is prices have risen, and it's come to the point that now economy is in such a bad state because so much more have been printed that everything's so much more expensive. Now we don't have that spare money. We can't afford anything.
Yeah, exactly. You actually summed it up pretty well. And also, those that didn't get the free money, your savings are essentially getting, if inflation's 10% a year, your savings are losing 10% every year. So if you have 200 grand in the bank, you've lost £20,000 a year, almost 2 grand a month, just because they printed so much money at one point when it was 10% inflation, which is kind of insane. But also, in reaction to that, they've now had to hike up the interest rates so much. Why interest rates are at 5.5% or 5% now, which means it's very expensive for people to get mortgages. And everything, financing cars, mortgages, is suddenly really hard. So, when you have a house mortgage, right, you get fixed rate mortgage. So when you sign the deal, it could be a 10-year fixed rate of 2% or a 5-year fixed rate of 2%. So the problem we've had is for the last 10 years or so, we've been having very low interest rates of sort of like 1%. So loads of people have borrowed all this money at super low interest rates. But this year, a huge amount of people, their fixed rate is going to expire, which means they have to go to the market and get the new rate of what the market is. So suddenly you're going from you're paying 1% interest on your mortgage to paying 5 or 6% interest on your mortgage. So suddenly people's mortgage bills are going up, from like, I don't know, an example, like £800 a month to maybe £1,500 a month. And it's just all on interest. So that means that they have less real money to spend in the economy. And that's why not all, but that's part of the reason why we're in a recession now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the annual percentage rate has ruined everyone. The rechangeable percentages has killed a lot of people. I know most people, it doubled their mortgage. It's doubled. Yeah, a lot of people have doubled. Like they've gone from paying a certain amount of money and just being able to get by. Most people, when they buy a house that they can just get by, so that in their heads, their jobs are going to get better in 10, 15 years. Everything, they're going to be making a little bit more money in that. So everything will become easier with time to pay off. Yeah. So a lot of people, their mortgages are probably a third of a third of their
Income.
monthly income. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's 2/3.
Yeah. It's horrible.
They got kids. They got food. Like, what are they meant to do? Can't do anything.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation.
Yeah, definitely. One of the worst. Can we quickly have a little chat about the Supercross?
Yes.
I'm sure loads of your listeners will be chuffed to hear about. So, AMA Supercross is an American motocross racing in arenas. So they build a track every week. They race on it on the Saturday. They take the track down on the Sunday. They move to a new location. They build it throughout the week. Track works, and they do that. It's a 17 round event. Obviously, there was a newcomer, Jet Lawrence, last year, moved up from the UFA class, the 250 to the main. He won every outdoor race, and then he's in the Supercross. It's all very interesting. What really caught my eye is there's someone called Austin Faulkner. He rides for Kawasaki. He has had really hard luck with his career. He was one race away from winning a championship, I think maybe 5 years ago, in a 250 thing, and he crashed one race away from winning the championship. Pretty much 1 or 2 races, he would have wrapped it up and he'd have won. And he crashed. He broke his shoulder. He broke a couple of bones, and he was out for a year and a half. He was probably out for. Then he comes back last season, and the first race of the season, the first gate drop when they started, he crashed at the first corner and broke his leg.
Oh no.
So he's out again. He's now come back this season, and God rest his soul, we just found out he's broke his back in 3 or 4 different places. So he's out again. But he's had a really nasty crash, and he's, like I say, Dad's just come out on social media and said he's broke his back. He's broken a couple other things. I would just briefly like to say we wish him well, and we hope that he makes a speedy recovery. I do have a video.
Oh my God. How fast is he going?
Probably 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour.
And he's flown like 10 meters through the air, landing on his back on concrete. Poor guy. So, Austin Faulkner, he was leading and he crashed.
Yeah.
Get well soon, mate. Terrible news. And on that note, I think we should wrap up the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers, mate. Until next time.
Right. Cut the video.